Hello and welcome to week 7 of PA117. This week we are in chapter 6 of your book, Law and Ethics for Pharmacy Technician. And chapter 6 starts on page 135. So we are talking about HIPAA, all about HIPAA. Not the first time you're going to hear about this and not the last time you're going to hear about HIPAA. It is all over the certification exam, and so we want to make sure that you know all about HIPAA. So make sure, number one, that you know how to spell it. H-I-P-A-A. A lot of people spell it H-I-P-P-A, H-I-P-A-A-A, H-I-P-A-A. It stands for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Basically, patient's privacy. And so let me just go right into talking about what is the goal of HIPAA. The primary goals of Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act include improving the portability or transmit and transfer of information, which we're going to get into in just a second, of healthcare coverage. It affects both groups and individuals and intended to reduce abuse, fraud, and waste of healthcare delivery and insurance. So what we talk about in HIPAA is called PHI, or Protected Health Information, and this is basically protecting yours and my health information. It is PHI must be identified to be protected. It's important to understand that all health information, whether verbal, written, or electronic, should be protected. So for example, when you are talking about another patient in front of a patient, that is HIPAA, basically protected information that you're speaking to another patient is illegal. So make sure that you understand. Something that always I just remember about HIPAA is I had a friend who was volunteering as a candy striper at a local hospital. And while she was there volunteering, she saw her cousin there and said, "Hey, how are you? What are you doing here?" And she said, "Oh, I'm great, but our uncle is in the hospital for blah, 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 blah." Well, my friend went home and told her mom that she saw her cousin there. Well, then the mom called the cousin and said, "Oh, I heard about Uncle blah, blah, blah." Well, that cousin was about to sue my friend for HIPAA because she was in the hospital working or volunteering as a hospital administration and shared that she saw somebody there at the hospital and that somebody was a patient there. That is HIPAA or PHI that she shared, and so she could have got sued over that. And so it all turned out in the end, and she wasn't sued or anything like that. And we're going to talk about what it means to be sued by HIPAA, or making sure that we don't break HIPAA, because that can be a huge problem for our pharmacy. So, but just remember, those kind of things can be huge. So you see people walking in and out of the pharmacy all day long. Could be a family member, could be a close friend. Shh. We don't talk about it. Whatever happens in the pharmacy stays in the pharmacy. What happens out of the pharmacy stays outside of the pharmacy, and vice versa. And so just make sure that if you see one of your family members come into the pharmacy, they get a prescription filled there. It's private information. You can't go home and tell your mom that your cousin is on a depression medication. Do you see how that could be skewed? So make sure that you do not do that. Okay, let's go into... I wanted to talk a little bit about on page 147, faxes and emails. Your discussion question talks about what happens if you need to fax something, or you need to email some PHI or protected health information. And so it talks about faxing, that you need to make sure that you're faxing to the right address, that you have verified it before you transmit any information. Because what if something happens that you maybe mistype a number and it goes to the wrong person? That can be a really big problem. And before we even do all this, before we share that PHI, we have to get written notification from the patient that that is what they want us to do with that information. So make sure that they sign something. Your pharmacy will have that. You make them sign it. So make sure that you verify that. If for some reason somebody on the other end gets some other PHI or some PHI, that is then the person that is supposed to have received it in error then needs to contact the sender immediately,